CKCU 93.1 FM. You're listening to Fundamentally Sound. February 10th. I got a very special show to play today. A very unique show. We got Higha level coming on. We're going to have a very interesting talk about music industry in Canada and how Canadian music is progressing and advancing in the last couple of years. There's an issue currently going down with the station CKLN. There's a lot of hearings going on. Politicians are involved. Higha level is going to talk about that. Welcome to CKCU.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I can't travel all the way there right now. I wish I could make it in studio, but I appreciate having the time on right now.
Definitely. Thanks a lot for coming on also from my end. We're going to talk about a couple things in the music industry and CKLN.
That's something we really want to try to shed some light on in our community still.
Absolutely. For all the listeners listening out there, give us a little bit of background about yourself and what you do.
Definitely. I go by the name Higher Level, a.k.a. Mr. T, because I pity all the fools out there. I'm Canada's only $5,000 producer and selector. Basically what I do is I take music from all over the world, regardless of genres, because to me every genre is the same, just the sound, and I just put it together to kind of make my own unique recipe that represents who I am and the music that I like.
So for people out there who are maybe not familiar with a lot of the terms, what's a selector?
Well, a selector, that's the father of the DJ, basically. That's from the Jamaican thing. We're talking about hip-hop here, and Kool Herc, the father of hip-hop, who's Jamaican. A lot of people say it's American, but they got to understand, Kool Herc was a Jamaican that came to New York that created hip-hop. And he's the first DJ of hip-hop. But in Jamaica, they had their own version. And in Jamaica, the DJ is called the selector. I don't do all the tricks that the turntablists do. I'm just raw with it, all about the music. I don't need too many tricks. I got enough music to back me up. Production is a little underground, but there's a lot of people imitating my style, especially from Toronto. There's a few DJs and producers who are trying to copy the multicultural, genreless music I create. You can hear me around. I got the breaks going on. I'm trying to create a Canadian music. I know that might sound crazy because nobody's ever said that. I want to create something Canadian, multiculturalism, different kinds of people. That's Canadian to me.
That's a very commendable vision, in my personal opinion.
Right now is a time where you see a lot of Canadian artists. They're leaving Canada to get successful. This is an ongoing problem. It's been happening for about 30 to 40 years. The typical, I don't want to say this to be rude, but reality, Canadian mentality, sellouts. Go down south, bought out. I just don't understand me personally because I'm the type of person, you know how they say if you can't beat them, join them?
Yeah.
I'm not going to join them. I'm still going to try to do it. Every music style never started internationally. It started at home. You know, that's the real. I want to be happy from where I'm from. I want to respect the artist's national pride. But if I don't get a chance to hear them, what am I going to do? It's the media. It's just like people pretend they're from places they're not. People are from Mississauga. People are from Ajax. People are from Markham, and they say they're from Toronto, which is not true. Personally, I'm not from Toronto. I'm from Scarborough, Maestro, right? That's where I'm from. Now, the city, that's Toronto. Culture never comes direct in the city, usually. It comes from the boroughs outside of it. City is where the business happens, and that business is to send artists to the States or internationally. Justin Bieber, he's from Stratford. I never heard about him until Usher put him on. It's kind of weird that somebody that lives in Canada, I never heard him before until he went to the States. Oh, what's going on here? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't make sense to me. We don't get to hear about these things. Can you let Canadian people just leave without even showing a little bit of their talent to their home country?
I just got a call in, actually. Made a point that it's maybe not particularly easier to get put on in the U.S. in the sense that there's a lot more competition of artists in the U.S. They made a point that oftentimes the U.S. labels are looking for something a lot different, and that is provided by Canadian artists who are really fresh and come with all kinds of fresh concepts and ideas.
I hear what you're saying, and you know what? I would agree with that if Canadians didn't make generic music. You know, for the most part, Canadian music, and this is not a lie, it's not even against, but this is reality. Most Canadian music fans, most Canadian people tell you in their music collection, Canadian, they don't even have the CanCon rules in their own music collection. People got to be realistic. See, that's the thing. People in Canada, it's easy to get a Canadian artist to play a role. Canadians are some of the best actors in the world. They got to be themselves. That's when I like a Canadian. You can't have fear if you do music. If you do music, you have to understand you have to take the good with the bad. Canadians have an inferiority complex to the Americans. That's not a lie. What I notice about American music personally is American music just steal music from other countries and just rename it. You know what I mean? That's honest. Every day when you see Canadian DJs, Canadian producers in the city, an American comes in town and all of a sudden they're good. You know what I mean? Before they're not like that. They're gangsters before that. But when an American comes down, they know their position because they're scared of them. Musically. Can't have fear if you do music.
We got to get you up in front of the CRDC to talk about Canadian music nationalism.
I like real Canadian music. You're going to go, what's real Canadian music? something different and unique that you don't expect. You don't expect Gino Vanelli. You know what I mean? You don't expect that from. You don't expect Corey Hart. Sunglasses at Night. The Maestro. Still to this day, nobody has outsold him.
I was listening to other, interviews you'd done, and I was like, wow, this guy kind of like, what are we talking about here? But then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? It's true. All these different areas of Canada, one urban center, but this other urban center is in the West Coast. They'll have different styles, different likes, different things that they dig, that the community digs, and it's definitely never brought out.
No, and it's like I said, again, it's all about what we want from this. And when I say we, I'm not going to lie, there's no really industry to me here. There's still part of something that we have to connect where programmers, artists, clubs, whatever it might be, there's got to be a chain. That's how every successful music works. Artist gives it to DJ. DJ plays it. DJ helps the artist. So we have enough talented people in our country where we need to assist each other. And that's what I try to do. I know if I give somebody a record, it will assist them. Whether it's an evening at the club, out with their friends, a corporate, doesn't really matter. It will assist them. As I said, everybody has an important job in this. I wish I could say I'm the superstar and I can do everything myself. I'd love to say that and it to be true. It's not like that. We got to work together. I'm not trying to step on nobody's toes. I don't want to get into nobody's profession. You got to just be yourself. Like I said, for me, music, especially, is communication. I like to get to know about the people on it because they have their unique everyday lives. It's not the same as where I'm from. It's not the same here. It's not the same in Winnipeg. It's not the same in Vancouver. But why is the music all sounding the same generic imitation of American music? When I'm saying truth, I'm not going to say any lies. Canada has a very unique opportunity. I started something based on what I see, not anything too magical. Multiculturalism. Everywhere has different people. Everywhere has different unique sounds. Why do we gotta be just an imitation? So you think you can dance? We do So You Think You Can Dance Canada. Cheap imitation. Generic. Why? It bothers me. It bothers me, yo.
I can tell.
Yeah. What's the point of having talent if all you're gonna do as a DJ is look at another playlist and just play the same music? Then you're not being yourself. You're a robot. You're like a jukebox.
Are there any kind of artists that you're checking for locally in Toronto or nationally right now?
Nationally, all the Canadian artists right now are the artists who are huge in the States. Very talented. I respect them a lot. You got producers very talented when they want to be, right? You got the older guys, international. Why aren't they using their clout to come back home and create something, though? Investing your profile. Some of us have much longer reach in the media. They have a chance to say something much more important. But what are you going to say? That's, again, it comes to the person. Like I said, most Canadians, give me some money. 4 years later, Avril Lavigne doing pimple commercials. Career's over. That's what happens. That's what Canadians. That's what happens. That's what happens to a lot of Canadians. They go down south. Everybody knows. In the States, if you're from a foreign country, you're just a gimmick. Truthfully. You're a gimmick for a little bit, and then you go to style.
I got to give a special mention to one artist from Canada who I feel is doing his own thing, Shad, man. Shad is one of the best new artists I've heard in a while.
That's London. I think London.
London, Ontario, yeah.
They got to say, I'm from London, and be proud of it. That's going to tell you back about the people. This guy's rapping about where he's from. He's rapping about his situation. Rapping just means talking, communicating. I want to hear about people in a musical form. That's all, yo. You just got to hear.
Is there any in Scarborough that you're feeling right?
In all honesty, and there's nobody on my level. You know what I mean? I'm going to say this real.
I should have figured.
There's nobody on my level where I'm from. Because, like I said, most of the people here, they're imitation. They're generic. They're not themselves. When they're themselves, I'll have a very difficult time disrespecting them. It's impossible because when you're yourself, you're the best. That's the truth to me. When you're being yourself. But a lot of people, where we're from, Scarborough, Toronto, Mississauga, Ajax, they're not themselves. They're imitations of American music.
That's pretty hard, man. Nobody? Not anybody?
If I say one name, they're going to go, why didn't you say mine? Everybody catches feelings. Like I said, when everybody is being themselves, I think they're number one when they're being themselves. But when they're imitation, I'm just going to pick up the real thing. I don't want an imitation. Canadians have pride in them.
I feel like I asked you a bit of a loaded question there, too.
Nah. Like I said, part is the truth, part we got to do a little show, right? I got to let these guys know that, no, they can't reach me. If they want to, they can always try, but they got to reach that higher level, right? That's a hard thing to do. That
little bright spot, Beat Factory Essentials in the 90s, late 90s, maybe you thought there might be, hip-hop movement. Northern Touch came out, and people were like, oh my gosh, there's a Canadian hip-hop movement. In terms of, a mainstream on TV.
Northern Touch, to me, right there, that was the chance
to take over. Jam.
That whole era. I can say from When Let Your Backbone Slide came up to Northern Touchman, that was just a gradual build. Choclair, Cardinal, Socrates.